Hello, this is Paul Harris of CGS. Today I'm joined by Jason Stirbinskis, Managing Director of Los Cerros. Hello, Jason. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Paul.
Excellent. We spoke a few months ago, I think it was June or July. A lot has happened since then. Perhaps most importantly, you had a very significant drill result that you put out a couple of weeks ago. Tell us about that, please.
Sure, yeah. Well, last time we spoke, we were talking about a pending drilling program, initially starting at Tesorito and going on to Chuscal and other things. We played out true to form, and we started drilling not that long ago at Tesorito, and earlier this month, around the 9th, I think it was, of September, we released the first drill result from Tesorito. And that had three significant outcomes for us. Two we expected, the third was a very pleasant surprise. The headline number is we got 230 metres at a gram per tonne from surface. And that in its own right is a pretty spectacular hit. But when you consider either side of that was 384 metres at a gram per tonne in historic drill hole and 253 metres at a gram per tonne, both of them pretty much from surface as well. That third hole, that 230 metres, gives you an appreciation of potential volume of what we're talking about here, particularly when you consider that one of those two holes was perpendicular to the other two. So it gave you an orientation in three dimensions, in three directions, depth and two lateral extensions, one 90 degrees to the other. So you can get an idea of, this is something quite interesting. So that was the first revelation or first outcome from that single hole, that hey, this is pretty exciting. Three holes, all of 230 plus metres at a gram per tonne, essentially all of them starting from the surface. The second interesting outcome from that hole was we hit 18 metres at 2 grams per tonne from the surface, and inside that was 6 metres at 4 grams per tonne. And that really sort of resonated with part of our strategy. Obviously, we're in the mid-Colca porphyry belt and we're hunting for porphyries, but as you know, Paul, and we discussed, as you mentioned back in June, we have the Miraflores feasibility study and 500,000 ounce reserve, and that's just 500 metres or so away from where this drill hole was drilled. And we're always looking for opportunities to supplement the feed going into the Miraflores feasibility study, just as some better grade material. So hitting that 18 metres at 2 grams per tonne, including the higher grade 4 grams, 6 metres at 4 grams, really sort of played into that strategy, that whole top-up strategy, and this hub and spoke idea of having several mines feeding a central plant at Miraflores. So that was really exciting as well. So big porphyry hit, high grade near the surface. And the third one that caught everyone's attention, particularly the more informed analysts and geologists out there, is we intercepted bornite in the hole. And in the announcement, we included a photo of bornite just to prove that we weren't making it up. Now, bornite is a copper mineral associated with very high temperatures and indicative of being in the core of the porphyry. And this bornite appeared right where we got the better grade material at sort of 150 metres or so, that sort of depth. And that's a really significant outcome. And I didn't even announce the copper results in the announcement because I wasn't suggesting we had enough copper to be economical. What the bornite is telling us is that there's copper in the system somewhere. We're not in that area now. Our copper grades are by far sub-economic, but the presence of bornite tells us there's something else there. There's something deeper providing a copper pulse, if you like, or a deeper copper core to this system that's got everyone very excited. So three outcomes, all of them very positive for us, and our share price and our market cap is reflecting that.
Thank you, Jason. Congratulations on those drilling results. Now, all of you mentioned Chuscal, Miraflores, and obviously Tesorito. These are all part of the Quinchia project. So what do these big intercepts, these good intercepts at Tesorito potentially mean for the Quinchia project? I mean, as you work through and follow these up, will it perhaps change the configuration of the project? Passing from looking for other feed for the Miraflores development to potentially Tesorito being the development and Miraflores being the subsidiary part of that?
Well, you're thinking even further ahead than me, Paul. Yeah, that's a possibility. At the moment, we're running several strategies concurrently, and that result, even though it's spectacular, hasn't changed that strategy. We're still true to that pathway, and that is three elements: finding that grade to top up Miraflores and go into early but modest scale production. Okay, nothing exciting and nothing grand, just modest scale production as defined in the Miraflores feasibility study. So that's path one, and Tesorito is added to that story with that near surface mineralization. Step two, and this is where you were heading, is hunting these big porphyries. And that's a multiple exploration program over many, many years. So whilst we can pursue this short-term developments, modest scale production scenario, we're also developing the porphyry story and where that might take us, and it could ultimately end up where you were just sort of implying then, that we change the whole paradigm of what Quinchia is about. But at this point, we don't need to think that far ahead. At the moment, both strategies are moving concurrently. Let's play them out to their natural completion and see where we end up.
Okay, thank you. Good drill results. You did a financing pretty much straight away after that. Good drill results obviously helped with financing. You mentioned your share price went up, your market cap went up. So imagine it was a bit of a cheaper financing than perhaps otherwise it might have been. You raised what, $10 million Australian?
That's correct. Yeah, $10 million Australian. We got bids for nearly 4 times that amount. And as you said, it was on the back of the announcement. So we announced, I think it was a Thursday, and we did the book build Monday, closed the book within 3 or 4 hours with the 10 million set, and a lot of that going to existing shareholders. And for the first time, we got a fair bit of interest out of sort of institutionals as well. So we've gone up another rank, if you like, in the visibility of the investment community, which again is another great outcome from the drilling results. So yes, we raised 10 million. That also allowed us to resolve the RMB debt facility, which I mentioned a few times in previous announcements as well.
Okay, so the RMB debt had been hanging over the company or the project for a number of years, and of course that was originally contracted by previous operator Seeker Resources, if I remember correctly. Has RMB become a shareholder through that, cancelling that debt?
No, the opposite, actually, Paul. So they were, if I can rewind, Metminco, when they acquired, which is Los Cerros' previous branding, when they acquired the project, they also acquired a $5 million debt to RMB. Now, when we merged with Metminco mid last year, we restructured that debt as a necessary sort of condition precedent to the merger proceeding. And that was translated to $2 million in equity and $3.5 million in debt due in 2024 or earlier if we achieve certain milestones. So there was a $3.5 million debt still sitting there. The other $2 million gone as shares, which has gone now as well. So what we've done is taken this opportunity, and with RMB's blessing, of course, to pay that entire RMB facility, that debt out. So rather than $3.5 million in 2024, we paid $2.21 million last week. And so now we have no longer any long-term debt overhanging us.
So it sounds like it's been important in terms of cleaning up the balance sheet and things of that nature. So that puts the company in a better position going forward.
That's right, Paul. It's a long, slow process in the background whilst we've been drilling and soil sampling and such. We've been cleaning up the structure of the company. So last year, or early this year, it came to completion. We sold some legacy assets in Chile. You might remember seeing those announcements. The Mayacas project in Chile was an old legacy project. We sold that for $1 million US. And just more recently, we announced that we'd further cleaned up some of those legacy subsidiaries in Chile as well, and closed those down, as well as a few in Peru. So there's this cleanup exercise we've been going through since the merger to get this company fit and clean and ready for its next iteration.
Thank you. You're going to be presenting at the CGS 2020 conference in November, in about 6 weeks' time. What do you expect to be doing in terms of the Quinchia exploration between now and then?
Well, another recent development since we last spoke, Paul, was, if I recall, back in June, it's Feels like so long ago, but I think we were talking about one rig at that point. We now have 3 rigs. So the world has changed on that front as well. So we had the original rig, which we spoke about going to Tesorito, with that sort of blessing from the market, getting such a massive response from the investment community, not just in this recent raise, but there was one earlier as well that was heavily oversubscribed. We took that as a license, if you like, to be bold and be ambitious. So we engaged a second rig immediately several months ago now. And that should be drilling in October as well. And we have a third rig, our own rig that we've purchased ourselves, arriving in late October. So that's 3 drill rigs running concurrently across Tesorito, Chuscal, and Miraflores. So 6 weeks, that's not long, but we'll certainly have news flow for you, I think.
Excellent. Well, I look forward to finding out more during the conference. Thank you for joining us today, Jason. Jason Stirbinskis, Managing Director of Los Cerros.
Always a pleasure, Paul. Thank you.